Hey folks, it's Brandon Harrington, host of SMI Podcast. You guys probably know it as Surviving the Music Industry, but never STMI. I know who you are if you call it that. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know that we just joined the American Songwriter Podcast Network. Be sure to go to americansongwriter.com/podcast to check out all their other shiz. Yes, I'm narcissistic. Yes, love me. Yes, I'm your future cult leader. All right, here we go. We did it. Let's start the show. This is Surviving the Music Industry.
That sounds sick.
I didn't think about how that sounded.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for swinging back to SMI Podcast, Surviving the Music Industry. I'm Brandon Harrington, your host that is constantly on the struggle bus of trying to figure out life. I'm in my 30s. I really forget what age I am accurately, so I just say I'm in my 30s. I guess that you get a pass when you get to a certain point. I guess I was 28 when I discovered I could just say late 20s. But I'm Brandon Harrington. I'm the host of this thing. This is the voice that you're listening to. Thanks, guys, for swinging in. The main reason you guys really wanted to chime in, wanted to know what was up, some of the back history, to get to know Tenille Townes. This has been a long time coming for me personally because I have heard of Tenille Townes for forever, and I've borderline begged and payola and did some dirty deeds to have this conversation. I'm joking. It's just been a long time coming, and I've tried in the past, but we finally connected and we did the thing. So I'm so glad I got to know Tenille Townes. But I hope everybody's doing okay out there. I'm doing great, at least in my space. We can always connect. Some of those social platforms at Unofficial Brandon, those are some of the funny ones from Instagram to TikTok. And then, of course, we got some at SMI Podcast. But you can always connect with us, smipodcast.com. But, again, the only reason I really throw that out there, hope we can connect. We can talk through whatever you're going through, because I constantly kind of go through the stuff. I haven't really been in a great headspace as of late. I mean, to be honest, I'm lighting some incense right now. Not feeling the juju that's around, so I need to start feeling good. So, in case you want to know, my favorite incense is Michelle Obama. You'd think it'd be demasculating and smells like what your soul smells like when it's ripped from your chest, but it's not, I promise. It's, smells really good. I really love it. You can only get it at a gas station here in Nashville, like in Antioch, that I've been able to find. You know what? I haven't even looked on Amazon. I need to work on that. But anyway, only can go there. And I need to check that out because I'm running low. I got to do that. Haven't been feeling good. The family's still a little bit out of town. I'm getting ready to head out of town. As long as the all clear is there. So let's revisit this for a hot second. I just found out my family was somewhere in proximity, close contact with somebody with COVID-19. Everybody knows that I own a child and I'm working on my first marriage. And so to hear this news is infuriating because you do your best, you mask, you wash your hands, and then just some idiot situation, people not taking it so as serious as everybody else, they get in contact. Well, so far, everything is good, from what I know. And again, that's from what I know. And we're still figuring out. But all that to say, I might have to drive to Arkansas here in a bit, go visit them, because they've been gone for lots of weeks. And I've been by myself, cooped up in the house. And now I truly understand the headspace of everybody that has been going through this headspace that's been alone since the start of any kind of quarantine or isolation during COVID-19. I've been by myself for about 4 weeks now, 3 to 4 weeks, and I am a miserable, dirty slut of a man. I'm just saying, there is just junk all over the place. I thought I was over this filth of my life and headspace and mess when I got married, and just thinking that I got my shit together. I'm just taking care of myself, but in realization, my wife is just way too awesome than I could ever be. Because then when you take that out of the equation, you just kind of become this dirty little pig in a sty, and there's just crap everywhere. I don't know. I'm just a mess in my life. But all I know is that I have you guys to listen because, I'll write a song, and I'm playing it for the walls because 2020 was going to be my year for co-writing, and that's been an issue, obviously. But I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out, trying to figure out my headspace, trying to get back to human connectivity, and I think that's what we're all trying to do. I don't know. Anybody feels that pain, we can always connect. I'm always great with social media, connecting at least through there. Emails, not so much. I'm not very good. Because I got tons of other emails I got to check back with. But, again, those socials, at Unofficial Brandon or at Us in My Podcast, whatever you're on. Just search it. Who doesn't know how to use the search bar? But anyway, we're here to talk about Tenille Townes. This has been a long time coming, all right? Canadian woman. She didn't start as a Canadian woman. She grew up in Canada, moved to Nashville, start this pursuit of a songwriter, doing the artist thing. She is definitely, in my opinion, one of the strongest, youngest songwriter voices in Nashville. And I got hit to her. She did a song with Donovan Woods, and we talk about it. And I fell in love. Donovan talked about her, I think, in his episode, I'm sure. I want to say when I had a conversation with Daniel Tashin at Big Yellow Dog years and years ago, I want to say that he mentioned Tenille Townes. I'm pretty sure that he did. At that point, I think he mentioned Tenille, whatever her original last name is, and we get in that conversation, winkety wink. All that to say, she's been this force of nature in Nashville for the past few years. She's a songwriter at Big Yellow Dog, Carla Wallace. And we go through the songs and the music, especially on this new record that is coming out tomorrow. If you're listening to this on the debut of Thursday, it's coming out June 26th. You're listening today. It's out today. You're listening to this tomorrow. It came out yesterday. And I guess past that, it's just all in the past. The record will be out. The Lemonade Stand. You guys need to take a look at it. I think it's beautiful. Cover art. The pictures are great. The music is... And I really don't shower blessings on the guests and artists, so I very rarely say this. But it is a really good piece of art. It's great music. It really is. Every song has me contemplating about myself, about the song itself, the characters that are involved. She takes this observational high road when writing a song, and so that's super great to get into. All that to say, we literally, I feel like, we get into it all and everything, especially when it comes to art, music, and her history. So everything about Tenille Townes, you guys probably know where to go. It's easy, TenilleTownes.com. Of course, give her a follow on any of her socials at Tenille Townes. The Lemonade Stand, be sure to go check it out. It's got all those songs that you've heard and you loved, all those singles that have been coming out. So you guys know what's up. She's got tons of stuff. Go give her a follow. Also, just always keep up with her. She's posting dates and everything, updates from her website and her socials. But all that being said, I love the conversation, love getting to know her. Can't wait to see her in Phase 4. All right, here we go. Howdy, is this Tenille?
It is. This is Brandon.
It is. What's up?
How are you?
I'm okay. I just realized that I sounded the most dad I've probably ever sounded by picking up the phone.
Nice.
I just launched with howdy.
That's amazing.
I guess the next best thing, I could have said yellow.
Yellow.
That would have been perfect. Third place would have been, Tenille, you overdrafted again. So
Yeah.
it's all coming to me.
Well, what a gift. It's just really coming to you. That's awesome.
It's a curse, I promise. It's not a gift. I'm really excited to do this because I've been following you. I've been stalking you for I don't know how long. I know that sounds creepy.
Aww.
Since I Ain't Ever Loved No One. Since Donovan Woods. And probably before that. I figured out who you were. I remember even talking to Daniel Tashin. And he was just like, you need to get to know her. And it was like...
That's so cool.
It's, yeah, right? And so now we're finally doing this. Managers and publicists are letting us do it. So here we are.
You can do it. I love that that's come up with. Man, Daniel's just the best. I love him.
Oh, I do too. Yeah, I mean, all those guys at Big Yellow Dog, I've never met a bad person. So you'll have to tell me if there's somebody over there that's rough.
No.
Don't
Man,
get country artist on me. We're looking for clickbait here, okay?
No, Big Yellow Dog is where it's at. They're such good people.
Okay, yeah. All right, so yeah, these are totally strange times, right? Because I know you kind of had a COVID situation, like you were stuck in Amsterdam for a while, and now that you're back,
Yep.
we're all stuck, like in the houses. Are you still taking the quarantine situation pretty seriously?
I am. Yep, I definitely am. I'm wearing my mask everywhere, and honestly still have not been a ton of places at this point. I've like gone and visited in a couple friends' backyards. But yeah, what a wild ride. Like, it seems like the beginning of quarantine feels like it was so long ago at this point. Like, we were literally in Amsterdam, and it felt like I was like in this weird movie where we had to hurry up and get on the plane and get home, and like, it just didn't even seem real then, and it still doesn't actually seem that real now. So.
Yeah, I've heard you tell this story with Brady Clark, and I remember as you were telling
man.
it that, you know, those like 90s movies like Dante's Peak, or there was another movie like maybe it was called Volcano, of all movie titles, Volcano. Like, it was in California and LA, and there was a volcano with Tommy Lee Jones. That's what I imagined your situation, just running through the airport, and there's just an outbreak happening or something, you know?
Yeah. It was it's so wild. It's truly, all of it really is. So thankful to be feeling healthy, and really looking forward to getting on the other side of this, so we can all be together at shows again, because I'm just missing that so much and going a little crazy. And
Human connectivity, right?
yeah, so hungry. I miss hugging people so much.
Right, that human touch, that connectivity. I like, even before this, I was kind of like, okay, 6 feet's good with me. Like, you know, I'm good that you don't know me that well, but now I'm like craving it. That's my situation.
Yeah. I very much understand that.
Yeah, and now we're analyzing civil rights, which is,
Yep.
you know, it is like admirable and the thing to do, obviously. But it's so weird, because I stalked your Instagram, and I did the same thing. I took a picture of a black box. I took a week off to figure things out for myself. But it's amazing how many people like get so offended about a black box that you post on like Instagram or something.
It's very true. There's a lot of perspectives and opinions and just things to navigate and learn about, and it's been heavy on my heart being here in the last little while, just seeing this come to the service in this way, and just trying to really find a place and trying to just make it better and be a part of continuing good change, you know?
Right.
But yeah, but you're right. It's definitely taking some things up.
Yeah, it's I mean, I know for myself, like just diving into, you know, figuring out me and then taking myself out of the equation. I think that's what I finally come to, like out of a week of like listening to the Black community and just educating and even re-educating.
Yeah.
I
Totally.
think that's kind of where I'm at with everything. But the way you posted yours was like the most Canadian, like best Canadian way ever. Like, you just posted it. That was it.
Well, thank you. I mean, man, it is strange, you know, not necessarily having grown up here, and Canada very much has its own racial tension and issues and things to work on. Absolutely. But it's a different history than here. So it's very interesting as somebody kind of coming in from the outside and just really learning about the layers of it. I just really feel like for the whole world, you know, there's just so very much to learn and just pay attention to.
Yeah, I mean, do you still feel like an outsider? Like you're kind of watching this, maybe seemingly it feels like on the outside, but then also just taking it in internally. And I'm sure you're evaluating yourself too. But that's just I've never heard it put that way. And that totally makes sense. Canada having their own struggles and just challenges as well in those conversations. Yeah. But now that like you're in Nash, you know, this is in the South, like this is the thing, and has been the thing for, I don't know, well over 100 years, you know. It can be shell shocking.
It is actually, that's a great way to say it. There's a lot of this that feels shell shocking, and I don't know if that's coming from a different place, or if really that's just trying to understand it in general. Like it's just shell shocking to think about. It seems like unfathomable for people to be treated differently.
That's a great way to put it. Like, it's unfathomable. Like, you can't imagine another human being going through this, but it's always been like this. And that's what's crazy. And that realization that you can come to.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but Canada, I do know Canada's there in your background. So, but I never would have pegged you as Canada, though. And there's a little bit of a stereotype. No, like, I don't hear the accent. Is there an accent in Alberta? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think you hear different inflections of accents for Canada depending on which province you're from, for sure.
Yeah, my favorite is the about. I mean, but I'm not hearing that. Maybe you haven't said about yet, so.
Yeah, I'll try to avoid that. No, I'm kidding. That's definitely more, I think, East Coast than the Western side a little bit. But if I get on the phone with my mom, I'm sure that more of the Canadianisms will probably hop out a little faster.
Oh, isn't that crazy how that works? Like when I go home, and I'm from Southern Arkansas, East Texas. I mean, I speak like a banjo, and just about
like it just comes out of you. It just happens when you talk to your family, right?
110%. Yeah. It's like a slow rolling banjo, my accent in Southern Arkansas. Oh yeah. Born and bred. But you're from Canada. I've been to Alberta. How far is Alberta from Grande? Is it Prairie? Is that where you're from?
Yeah, so it's in Alberta. It's in like the northern kind of central west corner of Alberta. So I'm about 5 hours north of Edmonton and like 8 hours north of Calgary. And the winding sort of rivers and valleys and highways that take you to the wide open golden fields of in between the gravel roads that I grew up on.
Stop it. You just wrote a song, like right here. Like, is this already a song I don't know about?
No, dang. I mean, you got an instrument around, we'll just write it right now.
I'm not a fan of John Denver, but I mean, that's basically where it was heading.
Yeah, true. I mean, it might have already been written.
Yeah. Okay, but it sounds like you have an affinity for home. That's something I don't understand. Like, do you really love home?
I do. I loved where I grew up. I love the community that I have. I also, it's like such a weird thing to imagine leaving a place you love, but I can't imagine not having left my hometown. Like, as much as I miss everyone and miss my family, and I mean, it's like a 45-hour drive from Grande Prairie to Nashville. And my dad helped me make the drive in my little Tacoma truck 6 years ago, and the further we got from home, the more I was like, I really hope this works out because I don't want to have to drive 45 hours all the way back home. But
that's a lot of pit stops, Dad.
It's a lot of pit stops. Yeah. So it's like always just a piece of it that I take with me. Honestly, every time I get in that vehicle, it's like the only thing I've ever driven, and I still like feel a little piece of home in that vehicle. And I did love home. I loved getting to grow up there. And I also just really love being in Nashville now.
Every time I go to a new place, I'm always like, Yelp it. I kind of wish that was my superpower. Like, I just Yelp, like, whatever is there, and I just know automatically. But every time I would go to a new place, I at least want to figure it out. Yeah. So I still do that to this day, like, even before talks and stuff. So on the quick Googles on Grande Prairie, like, what's the first thing like popped up about it?
Tell me.
It's like one of the most dangerous cities in Canada.
Yeah, there's that.
How true is that true?
It's funny. I don't really picture that. I don't know if it's because when you imagine, you hold on to the good parts of things. But crime rate is definitely a steady issue. It's a very unique town because it's an entrepreneurial city. So there's a lot of moms and pop sort of businesses and situations, and people are invested locally. It's around the oil industry. It's a lot of farming. It's a lot of just like kind of big dreamers and go-getters. And there's a divide in all that can crush and be dangerous as well. But I do a lot of work with the youth shelter in my hometown, and so I've seen it on that front. There is an astounding number of kids in our town that really need that safe place to turn to, struggling with homelessness and addiction and family issues, and I think that stuff exists everywhere in the world, but nobody really wants to think that exists in their hometown. And it's just,
That's the kicker, right? Like nobody sees it like in your hometown. Like you don't even see it as a kid. Kind of getting to know you like in this process is like, she's not that hard. There's no way she comes from like a dangerous city. But I also come from a dangerous city in the States. And I was trying to think back even for myself of like, well, I didn't see it. It was just, Nickelodeon, I guess. You know what I mean? Like it was just this fairy tale thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all in how you remember, how you experience, and also the circles that you're in, and what your own experience of it can be. But yeah, that's Grande Prairie and all its adventures and turns.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell me about mom and dad, though. I want to get to know them for a second.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, my they're high school sweethearts, and my dad, started his own business in the garage and started kind of building this equipment, and my mom did the books in the kitchen, and my brother and I grew up watching them work really hard and kind of build this thing from the ground up. So it was they're both very compassionate, very driven, hardworking people.
What was the thing? What's their business?
It's oil in the world of like fixing wells so that they operate and at the highest capacity and cause the least amount of damage.
Oh wow. Okay. That sounds like big money to me.
I mean, it's a whole world of understanding how wells and things work. It's definitely over my head, but it's a big part of the industry in that area for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Dad's entrepreneurial. Mom does the thing. And you got a brother too. Is that what I heard?
Yeah. Little brother.
Yeah. Is he musical too?
He's not actually, although he's really good at whatever he decides he wants to put his mind to. So I feel like if he picked up a guitar, he would be just wonderful at it. I have no doubt.
Yeah. Okay. Are you the creative in the family?
I think so. I mean, we're all kind of creative in different ways. My mom has like an eye for like decorating, and she loves interior creativity things. And my dad's sort of creative with, I guess, his field of, it's like he's an engineer kind of thing. Although he didn't go to school for it, he sure thinks creatively like one. And my brother too, in his own way. So, but musically or like writing wise, I definitely was kind of like the weird one that was like, I just always wanted to sing.
You're the alien. You're the foreign one in the house. You've invaded their house.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, I understand that for sure. You kind of do feel like this alien in a way, unless like they were like open arms to the idea of you music. Like, did they have any idea of like the music thing, like for them, or was it just like on TV and then that's it?
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of like a faraway thing. They always were, to both my brother and I, like very encouraging and saying, you can do whatever you put your mind to, and whatever you want to be in the world. If you love it, you'll find a way to make it work, and work hard enough to see it through. So I grew up believing that, and grateful for that. And I mean, when it came time, my parents were very much like, okay, work hard in school and get some grades, and then you could go off and do anything you want. And it came time to be filling out like college applications, and
Whoa.
I just had this feeling in my stomach that was like, oh man, I just really feel like I need to be out there on the road, and like this is my time to kind of do that. So I sat my parents down at our dinner table and explained to them. My dad's a big believer in the outliers kind of concept, that the Malcolm Gladwell book, and the 10,000 hour rule. And so that was definitely in my pitch. I was like, if I'm going to get to my 10,000 hours, I got to hit the road now, Dad. So
you used his own artillery against him. I know
you gotta get creative, you know.
I know.
So,
I hear it. That's good.
But yeah, so he was. They were both like, well, if you're gonna tell us your plan. So I had put this pitch together for a school tour where I was gonna travel in a motorhome across Canada, essentially just playing for schools, because that's the way I could think of playing for an audience every day as somebody really at the beginning of the music adventure. So I thought, my dad's like, well, that sounds great. So how are you going to pay for this? And so I put together
that's what you're there, Dad.
And no, definitely not. No. So I put together this sponsor package, and I literally went to my local gas station and told them this idea that I had of driving around in a motorhome playing for middle schools and high schools, and they passed up the situation up the line. And then I went to the local grocery store and told them this idea for this tour called Play It Forward, and they were like, dang, that sounds like something we could be a part of, and people just kind of started saying yes, and then we had the whole tour, you know, paid for and ready to go. And I spent 32 weeks. We spent like 32 weeks in a motorhome driving across the country, waking up every day playing music. And that to me was like one of the first steps of going, okay, like if there's a will, there's a way. You just kind of figure it out. And I just loved playing every day. It was just the best thing to get to see all these new cities and meet all these amazing kids and hear their stories. And so that tour was a blast. And when that tour wrapped up, I got in the vehicle and my dad helped me make the drive, and that was 6 years ago, arriving in Nashville.
Did the Nashville thing. Was Nashville always the plan, though? Was that always the X on the map?
It sure was, yeah. I made my first trip here when I was 14, and you know, we went to the Grand Ole Opry and the Bluebird and the Country Music Hall of Fame, and just like did all the tour stops. And I made my mom drive up and down Music Row like so many times on that trip, just staring at all of these places and these banners, and just thinking this is the place where people write songs, and this is where it happens. And it was always sort of this dream to be able to end up here.
Yeah. Did you, when you rode on Music Road, you just think, this is it? It's just a bunch of houses?
Kind of.
I know,
like,
I did too. Yeah.
You read about it and you're like 16th and 17th. Okay. And then you like go around the traffic circle and you just keep going around, because I kind of love it. It's like there's such a quaint, I don't know, superhero quality of the songwriting community to me that's like, it feels like it fits. Like those songs feel like they should be written in those really adorable, cool little houses, and that it's just like, I don't know, the more I geeked out over the history of Music Row and the RCA studios, and like just reading about where Christopherson would sit and write songs, it was like, oh wow, like this is sacred. I really still feel that way when I drive down Music Row now.
I do too. It's insane. The little space we have is where they have a plaque. That's the only reason I even know this, is because it's just hanging there, and it's George Jones. They wrote Golden Ring there.
Oh wow!
I want to say they recorded it, because there is a studio downstairs, and there's always been a studio there from the beginning, so they could have recorded it there, but at least that's where it was written. But all those houses have those like crazy stories like that.
They really do. Oh, yeah. I love that.
I do
so
too.
Cool.
All right, so you're an alien in Canada, and you're a kid, like figuring out. But were you like the really like weird kid, like really into music? Like, did you really get into it? And...
You know, kind of, but I was actually just mostly the nerd. Like I just like kind of kept to myself, and I had my best friend, and as I got through high school, we had like our little crew that would just like stay after school and do like calculus problems, and then I would go home and do music. Like it just kind of was. It
was a different world.
This other thing that I did. It was a totally different world.
Yeah. Okay, so there was like school life. You did your thing, and then like you did like music behind closed doors, kind of thing. Like you were a secret closet kid.
Yeah, I guess to some degree. I mean, I was like, I sang the anthem at all our local hockey games, and sang at the different weddings and cancer relays, and really any place people wanted music, I was like, please let me come play. The I think the first main stage I played at, I literally looked up I was riding the bus home from school, and I heard him being interviewed on the radio talking about the lineup of artists that were coming to play the festival, and I got off the bus and looked up his name in the phone book, and I called him, and I was like, "Do you need anyone?" I think I was 10. I was like, "Do you need anyone else to play your festival? Because I would love to come to sing." And he laughed. He laughed off the other end of the phone. He's like, "I think we're all full for this year, kid, but we'll see you. We'll see you around." And then he actually heard me sing "Oh Canada" at the hockey game. Came up to me. I think it was actually at a curling game, and he came up to me and said, "You know what, maybe you could come and sing the anthem." So I was so pumped. I got to hold the big microphone. I stood on the stage and belted my heart out, and I was like, "This is it." He let me play the festival, and then the next year he let me hire a band. It was the first time I'd ever hired a band, and I got the main stage slot for 45 minutes, and it was just such a dream. So I was doing all of those things at the same time as sort of just kind of focusing on school, and people knew that I loved music and that I did it, but it was kind of like two separate worlds, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What were you listening to? What was your jam? Was it always country?
It was a little bit of everything.
Sure.
I mean, it really kind of depended who I was driving with.
How about the time you said, "Oh, that's a songwriter," or that's a song? Just whatever that thing is in your imagination. What was that?
I really obsessed over all of those Shania records. I wore a Joshua Tree with my dad. I listened to, I think, probably Landslide. I actually I think I would have heard that version on the Dixie Chicks record, and then my dad was like, "Okay, we need to dive into Fleetwood Mac." So we did all of that, but it was I think that was probably the first song where I was like, wow, I love this song. I think in the country world, I mean, the first time I heard "The House That Built Me," I was like, this is the song of all songs.
Oh, that song slays me to this day.
Oh, every time. I can't listen to it without.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine there's a better song. Yeah,
I don't know if there really is. It really sets the bar.
It really does.
Yeah.
But even you getting into music, though, that was a time of, is an interesting time, like the Shania Twain stuff, where it wasn't really the focus on the songs. It was a production thing.
Exactly. Very true.
Is that what you fell in love with, or is that the thing of, there's a song in there?
I think with her, it was more the fearless path and the watching her Miami concert DVD and obsessing over the way that it was that she was on stage and the way that it was such a commanding presence to her music. I think that's what I was drawn to there, the bigger sort of dream and vision of it. And then once I was in and paying attention, it was I started to notice the details behind songs. I mean, I'd drive around in my grandparents' little motorhome on our summer road trips, and there was only the cassette player. So it was rotating between Elvis and Dolly Parton. And it's I didn't realize how Coat of Many Colors blew me away until I got a little older, going the storytelling aspect in songs is such a essential piece. I think it's that's what music's for to me. So once I started realizing that, it was I dove into Patty Griffin's record. I love Flaming Red, but I love Thousand Kisses, and I love the songs where it's just a guitar and a vocal. And even with her songs, it's so much more than the lyric. It's the transcendent place that it takes you, where it's your spirit understands it even if you don't.
Right. Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
That's what I love about that kind of raw music. So it was I think Shania opened the door, and then I just kept falling more and more in love with everything I was hearing.
So she was the gateway drug. I understand that.
Yeah, gateway drug, 100%.
Yeah, I get that. I really do. It's surprising to hear Joshua Tree, and I get this all the time. I'm not a big U2 fan. I like U2 songs. I'm just not a big U2 fan. But you like Joshua Tree too.
Oh yeah, I mean, those songs they're so good.
They are so good.
They take you somewhere.
Yeah, there's something about that transcendence though. it's weird. Like you can't at the moment, you don't think anything of it, right? It's just like, oh, it's just taking me to a place. But then if you ever get to a point in your life, and maybe like when you get to the point of a songwriter, like, oh, what was that magic? What was that thing? You know, I found myself doing that like much later.
Yeah, I mean, there's almost like a science to it where you try to understand how to set that feeling up. But I think so much of it is actually just getting out of the way. And like, I mean, to me, it's very much a sort of sacred spiritual experience to like step into that writing place and carry an emotion forward, or really just create a space for people to put their own emotion into. It's like the thing is just like a vessel. And I love. I wouldn't say that necessarily every time you write, it's like you feel that, but there are moments where it's like, this is something crazy. Like we get to wake up and do this. We get to make up songs and sing them for people and create a space where they can find hopefully what they need. Like that's something so much bigger than us, I think.
Yeah, it really is. There's I still get chills like at the right moment, but then I have this like sinking feeling in my gut or in my heart, like whenever those transcendent moments hit. And that's the only reason I can have or relate to what you're saying. It's like I physically like have those things, and that tells me that's what that is.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. I love hearing that.
Yeah, and I get that every once in a while. Obviously it's the impact, it's the timing. It's crazy the amount of like physiological and science that goes into like music and the feels, and of course, music that has a timestamp and the time that we're in, that kind of thing. It's crazy what music really is.
It is crazy. You're so right. They're little time machines.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I got a good sense of the kid of Tenille. Oh, by the way, Tenille Townes is like too perfect. By the way. So what is your real name? I'm gonna go ahead and call you out. What is your real name?
You're just really just calling me out.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know. I've been in this business way too long. I just know when it's perfect. That can't be your Christian name. So what's your real name?
Well, it's Nag Pernishny. And
say that one more time, not for me, but for listeners, because no, I'm playing. I honestly didn't know what you said. What is your last name again? Yeah, bless you. It sounds like it's all the letters of the alphabet. Pretty much. It's Nag Pernishny, but yeah, Township Road is Township Road 722 is the road that I grew up on, and so that's where Townes comes from. Yeah, I understand that. A name is important. It's weird. I'm starting to have this debate even for myself as a personality. So what made you like change your name? It was kind of this moment of stepping into this Nashville space, and for a long time I had just gone with my first name in some of the like independent or beginning things that I'd done in Canada, and then it's like, well, for searchability or for, all those kinds of things, it just, and aside from like the maybe business parts that made sense about it, it was sort of this turning of a page of like stepping into the season. And I kind of like putting a name on it. It was like, it was a defining sort of starting line for me. And, I'm grateful to have that last name sticking around. Yeah. So is it kind of there's a character to it? Like, is Tenille Townes different from Tenille? Yeah, I'm gonna go back and edit that. I promise. That's hilarious. I think it's like, there's this part where I vividly remember, like, being in Nashville. We pulled up. We went to the Bluebird show. I saw Lori McKenna. And I just was like, oh my gosh, like she just blew my mind. And she's amazing. I girl crush her every time I see her. That's on point. Yeah. Same here. And I just completely obsessed over her. But I literally saw her the very
like next day after we finished the drive here. And my dad like took me grocery shopping. We went to Guitar Center and we tried out all these cool guitars, and listened to like every person pick one up and just be like amazing. And it made me so hungry to just go, oh, I really got to dig in because everybody is like so good here. And it was the first time I'd ever like lived by myself, been outside of my comfort zone, and I spent so many hours just obsessing and playing in this tiny little rental apartment completely by myself. And like there was just something that just kind of changed in my sort of voice and in my personal like perspective of things. And I just am grateful that I had that kind of space and time to really be lonely and homesick and just dig in to that feeling of going, okay, you know, what do I want to say? And so I feel like the name thing kind of comes out of that season for me of going, of stepping into that sort of growth of, you know, being an adult for the first time, of like living outside of my hometown. And it kind of it musically felt like a new beginning.
I hate you. Everything is so like poetic and like gorgeous. And I'm sitting here thinking like Harrington is just posh. I just want to change it to something else.
Whatever.
But
oh my gosh.
But then
that's funny.
You're just spitting out song lyrics, like just talking about your name. Oh, you're killing me.
Oh,
that
man.
I mean that
Well,
is
thanks.
that is a crazy thing of like I mean, I guess maybe it's something like psychologists can probably point out. Like, I remember just watching like TED Talks and people pointing this out. Like, with your name and your identity, it's kind of wrapped up in one. So, even like I have these conversations. I'm good friends with another artist, Slahetka, and people hate or he hates the name. I'm just telling him, no, dude, the name is perfect. Nobody has it, and it's awesome, and there's a great story to it. And he beats himself up like identity wise. But for you, like the Townes comes from a place of strength and finding your own way. And that sets up like the genesis of that identity of that character, even though it's you, right? It's not like a completely different thing. Like it's still you. It's just, it comes from a place of empowerment and strength.
Yeah, I love it. I love the way you're saying that. I mean, I'll be honest, it took a bit to get used to because it kind of was this point of going like as we're getting ready to release music, like I really needed that name. And now it represents that sort of transition and strength and season. But there was points in there where I was like, I don't want another name, you know, like it's like, I don't want to have to do that. So it took a second for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. All right. So now you're in town, you're going to Bluebird, you're writing songs during this time, right?
Writing songs. Yes. Going and watching shows and like hearing my songwriting heroes talk about, because it's so cool in these write-arounds how they like tell stories of what it was like when they first got to Nashville, especially before some of these giants like play their very first cut.
Right.
And I loved hearing those stories because I was like, dang, that's like so encouraging to hear what it was like for them in not knowing anyone and being in a new place, and like, if they can do it, well, maybe I can too. So I always felt inspired, and I'd leave these rounds and I'd go back to this little apartment and I'd just stay up all night and write songs. And most of them were probably terrible, and I just kept writing more and more and more until I felt like I was on to things that were making more sense.
Yeah, it's so eye-opening, like listening to like Tom Douglas like talk about some of those times like back then, like him talking about like, you know, you're not shit until you can write a song by yourself and it's a cut. Like, so there's like on the business side, but then there's like people like Josh Osborne that went through like 3 bankruptcies until he got a cut with Kenny Chesney, you know?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
I get laughed at with this, but I really think musicians, songwriters are kind of like the superhero thing of they have like a steel heart and it's so gentle and fragile, like in the inside. But then there's like, you just keep doing it. You just keep going for, I don't know, you call it passion. I always think it's either passion or stupidity. There's so much
Yeah.
like heart, but then also are you naive to the situation of maybe it's time, maybe you should go be a car salesman, just give it up.
Right.
That's it. Just go to the lot and sell a couple of cars.
Yeah, no kidding. I think people feel that way around. Like, it's such a vulnerable thing to share art, and I think songs and writers who come here. I mean, it's often just you just have to wake up every day and keep writing songs until something happens, and one door leads to the next, or whatever. Everybody's story's so different, like you're saying. But I'm having this moment of remembering. I want to say it was a couple years ago. Kelly Archer got this award, and she made this metaphor talking about how songwriters were like window plants that never really die, and like, and some people like come around and put some water on it, like the publisher who just never stops believing in you and keeps walking by and pouring a little on, or something, you get a little fertilizer with this small cut over here, or whatever the situation is, it's just this relentless window plant. And I thought that was such a beautiful metaphor of thinking about the creative community here.
Yeah, that's a beautiful metaphor. The metaphor I always use is like a dumpster fire. Like it's just burning. Every once in a while somebody says, "Oh, look, that dumpster fire is burning. Here's a little water." And then you cool off for a little bit, but then it ignites somehow and you're just wondering what happened. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Man,
that's
valid
beautiful.
metaphors.
I know. Yeah. Okay. So I know Big Yellow Dog. So what was the season, and was it Carla that you met?
It was Carla.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carla.
She is a champion of songwriters. The couple of times I hung with her.
Yeah, she sure is. She's a force. I love the way she like listens to a song and just dances around her office. It's just like she really believes in things with her whole heart. And I'm very, very thankful to write songs there.
Yeah, I've heard stories about Carla Wallace, but just honestly, and I'm interested mostly like in your story, like that discovery.
Well, I was writing songs with really anyone and everyone that I possibly could, and I had asked some of my heroes, and a couple of them being Canadians that I knew who had, made the move here and got pub deals, and I was like, how does one get a publishing deal exactly?
Yeah, you can't Google
Mostly
that.
because you can't Google that. And it's like, how, also just as a Canadian, like, how do I stay here? How do I figure that out? So, after some different Aussie advice, someone was like, well, you should really meet with your rep at a PRO. And I was like, what's a PRO?
Yeah,
and
right.
So then I ended up, going around to all of them, and I met Robert Philhart at ASCAP, and I would just keep sending him songs and showing up at his office every couple of months.
Yeah, I know Robert. Yeah,
play him more songs. He's great, and he would set me up with some rights or set up a publishing meeting here or there, and I'd go around and people were often encouraging, and sometimes it would be like, well, we'll keep an eye on you, or sometimes it would be, well, we'll set you up with one of our writers, or, maybe we'll see you around, or whatever the answer might be. And he ended up setting up a meeting with Carla. I think we met on like a Friday and played her some songs, and she's like, come back on Monday and let's do this. And I was like,
what? That's crazy.
So that was a really exciting, turn of events.
Yeah. So how long were you in town before meeting Carla?
It was probably around 3.5 years or so.
Okay. That's pretty
at
good.
That point.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, from when I'd officially moved, I'd been making trips back and forth, since the first time when I came, I was 14. But when I officially made the drive and tried my best to plant my feet here, that was probably about 3 years into that adventure.
Okay, yeah. So, coming to town, meeting people, letting people kind of know your name, probably your new name at that point. And then, and then that fateful day of meeting Carla. So there's something that she just knew about you, because I wish I would know this answer, and I feel like nobody does, but it's kind of like, well, what's that thing that Tenille had, because it's obvious the after effect of like the record that's coming out, you know, it's like, oh, well, no shit. Like these songs are amazing. But then it's kind of, yeah, that's a compliment, I promise. But then there's like, you know, like the Miriam Morris thing, you know, there's like, what is the thing that made you, and then it becomes the thing that we all know. You know what I'm saying?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's really beautiful how people can have ears for that or eyes see it before. Sometimes you maybe even see it in yourself or you know, recognize something in its very early seed stages and take a chance. It's all taking a chance on things, and it's a brave thing, and it just like I just remember in that season of going, you know, like just finding out how things work as somebody just really who had no idea and just learning so much and wanting it all so bad and just going like how just feeling so overwhelmed with the opportunity to have to have somebody take that chance, you know, and going, wow, like it still has that magnitude to me. It's going, this is just really cool that somebody hears something and believes in it.
Right. And then like, I guess I've never signed a record deal, but being in those same rooms, it's kind of that same feeling too. It's like there's more validation to that.
Absolutely. It's like somebody heard something in the way that I just picked up the guitar and sang the song and believed in it enough to offer me a deal and to take a chance. And like that's just crazy to me. It's still crazy to me. You know?
Yeah. It really is because like you spend, and it's hard for a gen pop like to understand that, you know, like it's the thing of like you spend so many hours like hammering this thing out, and then you know, let's say it is the 10,000 hours thing, and then like officially you sign something on a dotted line, and that's the validation of, oh, I really do have something. It's not like I've wasted 6 years at doing this thing. It's like instant gratification. And there's truly nothing else like it, to be validated about what you do.
That's a good way to say it. Absolutely. And it's also like, wow, like this slight feeling of almost arrival or like
acceptance.
Wow. Like you have a seat at the table. And to me, it really is such a beautiful feeling. And it's also like, you know, you sign the record deal and you think, okay, if only I could get to the point of signing a record deal, and then you get going, it's like, oh wow, that's the starting line. Like there's so much more, you know, like work and things that happen from that point. It's like, I think as an early dreamer, you know, getting to town or visualizing it, it's like your finish line is really just starting line of what you're hoping for and what you're working towards. And then you get there and it's like, okay, cool. Like now we really get to get going. And then just sort of dreaming beyond that point feels a little bit like a new frontier and kind of a shaky ground for a while.
Yeah, no kidding. But again, you have that validation like to carry you along. To me, like kind of looking like, you know, at a piece of paper of your life, I feel like, and especially for me, like to try to put myself in your shoes, like I think the most validating to me in my mind space would be to meet Jay Joyce, because I feel like we can't talk about the Lemonade Stand until we talk about Jay Joyce in some capacity, in some way.
Yeah, I mean, he's my hero. He's a legend.
I know, right? Like when you listen to a Jay Joyce record, like you know, like that is Jay Joyce, and it's incredible. It sounds amazing.
I love that you feel that way too. I do too. It's like, it sounds like that artist. It sounds like themselves when you hear something that he's been a part of in that way. And it really is like kind of that transcendency thing. Like he just has this ability to really explore musically. I think he just really digs into places and gives things space to become what they're supposed to be. That was my experience anyways, watching him like pace around this church studio in East Nashville. And it's like, he just can't run from the way that it's just a part of his DNA. Like it's just in him to know how to create something. But yeah, it was a dream to get to meet with him. I had him at the literally top of the list of dream producers to work with someday. And it came time to kind of go, okay, like here's some songs, like who are part of your visions to write, to record this record with. I was like, Jay Joyce.
Jay, yeah, done.
It sounded crazy to even say it out loud. It was like, seems like such a lofty idea because he literally is a legend. But I got to go and play in some songs, and he instantly started speaking into the vision that he would have for the record, and gave me this whole tour of the studio. And I was like, "Yep, this feels exactly right." I can't even believe it was still real life, but it was amazing working with him.
When you played some songs for him, because that's what you got to do at that first meet. They want to get to know, and I've never met Joyce. I just have to like learn from you guys, because I tried to get him on this thing, and they're just like, no, it's not going to happen.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. He's a freaking alien. Like, I want to know how your brain works, but he is a little bit of an anomaly. Like he seems to think differently.
He is. He's a mystery.
Yeah. Oh, so I mean, could you even relate to him, like on besides the music level? Like, is he that too much of a freak, or was it like, oh, this dude is he's a human being. This is it.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely he's a human being. He is somebody that, you know, we were both kind of, I think, probably shy at first, and he's like sitting on the couch with his hoodie on, you know, like listening to these songs pretty quiet, and then it just kind of happened where we both just started opening up and getting to know each other, and honestly, we just dove right in. Like, we had that first meeting, and I think we went for coffee after to just talk about music, and I got to ask him a bunch of questions about his process and about so many records that I just was completely geeking and fangirling over with him.
Of course, I would have too.
And then showed up, and literally, you know, he had like yellow carnations on the mic stand, or on this table beside the mic stand, and I walked in with my guitar in his case, and he's like, "Well, open that thing up, let's go." And we just dove in, and that was that.
I feel like the flowers are like, oh, here's my touch of being human. Here you go. Now let's get to work. Let's do it.
And let's get to work. And we did. I mean, we were making noise in about 2 minutes. So and then I got to spend like 7 weeks in the studio, you know, going every day. And I don't think.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he really. There are parts of him I'm like, are you really human though? Because he doesn't. I don't know when he sleeps. Like I would.
Yeah, right.
I would stay there all day and he'd be like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, because I could tell he just wanted to like dive in and fine tune whatever mixing things, and he's like sitting there obsessing probably just through the night, and I'd come the next day and it would just be like this another level of all these things I'd heard the day before, and it's like, wow, like this is just. I was just blown away how it all took shape, and yeah, he really is a mystery, and you can tell his relationship with music is just, it's something a little otherworldly.
Yeah, I get that sense a lot. So when you played those demos for him, I'm assuming they were just demos, you know. That
I actually just brought my guitar and played them for him that way.
Oh shit! You just played a live show for this guy.
Severely intimidating.
Oh my gosh! No way! I would have just pushed play. Bye. Let me know.
That's amazing. There's part of me that would definitely wanted to do that, but like I wanted him to just hear the bones of the song, you know, and to like hear them in that raw place and be able to color in his own interpretations of where to take them.
That's probably what he even wanted too, you know, like
maybe so.
I feel like that's kind of his bakery, you know, before he's going to put that donut in the oven. Like he wants to know like really how good are the ingredients kind of thing. That's, like that, I'm just totally assuming, but that's what it always feels like. Sure.
I like starting from that place. And then from there, we really kind of got to listen to the different, you know, versions of these songs that I'd had up to that point of, you know, demos from the writing room or demos I'd worked on with other folks, and just like kind of assess all the elements of it, but really starting it from that skeleton is really important to me.
Yeah, but this thing is coming out.
It's coming out. I can't even believe it.
Well, that's what's crazy about it, because I feel like I've heard about this record for forever. And of course the singles and like it definitely feels awesome. That way for you, I know, because like you've been playing these songs for years, but now you finally get to show the world like some of the other stuff, you know, besides the singles and everything. It's
so exciting because honestly, you know, disappearing into the studio that way and taking these collections of songs that were such a snapshot of the season of my life, it was like to be able to it was created as a project, you know, top to bottom, and to be able to really get the opportunity in this music climate to release it as a project top to bottom is like, is really special to me. I know that that's a rare thing, and I feel really thankful to get to share it as a whole project, piece of art kind of thing, top to bottom.
Yeah, I know. Like, I always feel this way, especially when I was doing the artist thing of like, okay, a single, I mean, that's it. But a record was always like the dream. That's the thing. And maybe that's the music freak in us, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right, probably.
But man, there's just something about listening to a record from top to bottom, like to truly understand something. And this is, I mean, is this the record like for you? Like if it's the thing of like, this is the timestamp of my life, this is it.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is it. This is the record that I was a 7-year-old kid, you know, singing along to lyric booklets in the back seat, dreaming of standing on a stage someday and making my own record. And like, there's a little girl that sings on The Most Beautiful Things, which is the last song on the record, and she was the engineer, Jason Hall's daughter, and she came in and she's like standing, she's so brave, she's in there all nervous, got these massive headphones on and like singing her heart out, and it just was like, I just wept watching her through the vocal booth window going, that's it, that's the kid that I was. And like, this is a really crazy full circle. This record is the dream that I had as that kid.
But you came out swinging hard. I mean, from like Somebody's Daughter and then Jersey on the Wall. I think when I heard Jersey on the Wall, that's when, and like I said, I knew you, like, especially doing that duet with Donovan Woods. And there's some other stuff in there too, but especially, and I hate covers, like almost to a passion. I kind of hate covers. But your version of the Sarah Buxton tune was just, that was money. Like if anybody, that's almost like a near perfect song to me too. So
thanks.
Yeah, that's really good.
I agree. That song really does set the bar. Holy man.
Yeah, that's a really good one. But you came out swinging with all that and leading up to this record. But Jersey on the Wall, that's when I said, okay, she gets it. She, like, it feels like, okay, she's the songwriter. She knows how, like, to pick out a moment in somebody's life and then spin a story to it. But the way I understood, especially that song, and maybe even your style too, are you more of an observationalist? Like, do you feel like you would love to see this old man sitting on a bench and then like write his story?
Yep. I love the storytelling aspect of it, and honestly, I say that my favorite place to write from is The Observer, because it really is. Like, I think I process how I feel about things better from like a zoomed out perspective like that. It's like somehow I find my own sense of belonging in a situation from like stepping out of it for a second, and I'm just sort of noticing the world and seeing it that way. That's my favorite place to write from, for sure.
Okay, I love that. I'm getting to know you through this then, because I would like to say I'm an observational writer, but it almost gets too personal. And to me, in my headspace, it gets like, well, how can it not be personal, you know? But, I mean, is there a difference to you? I mean, the obvious is like, yeah, I'm not going to put, you know, that I'm wearing a yellow ribbon today or yellow shoes in this song, because that's what it is today. But yeah, I think on a deeper level, there's something, I think, a line between observation and then the personal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I mean, I think you can't help but have a piece of your own perspective and you know, personal truth sort of intertwined in the way you tell a story. And it's sort of like your identity becomes a layer of the story that you're telling, because you can't avoid that, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Then I'm super interested. And I'm kind of pick on this song for a little bit, but I kept the roses because now I learned that Townes. Okay, there's strength behind it. There's a power statement to it, to that identity. But what's crazy when I listen to that song is that in no way does it sound like the major character is a crazy person. You know, because the first verse you just think there is no way I would ever go on a Tinder date with this person, but. But there's this unique talent, I feel like, to a songwriter to not make any character the bad guy, like truly the bad guy. You spun it the focus was on the roses. Like, I'll just hang on to this memory and know not to make that same mistake. So was there...
That's interesting.
So back to the personal thing. I mean, especially for something like that. I mean, is that personal? Are you the crazy person?
I mean, I think there are definite parts of me that are the crazy person, yes. But I think the more the personal part of that song, sometimes to a fault, oftentimes probably, is like it's keeping the blinders on to only see the good parts of something, you know, and like and sort of that relentless positivity of going, no, like, to me, that's what that song sort of captures, is like holding on to the good parts of what shape you and choosing to leave behind the rest.
I'm really good at holding grudges, so that's a tough one for me. Yeah. There's lots of.
I understand.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's the human aspect of it, right? It's hard. It's probably easy to forgive, but it's hard to forget. You know.
Very true.
Yeah. But even like stuff like, there's a lot of like faith-based stuff, and we really didn't cover it. Maybe we just didn't get into it. Are you a believer in some kind of religion or anything like that? Because it sounds like it through the music, but is that character writing or is that like personal?
That's personal. I mean, for me, it's been a really sort of interesting faith walk. I didn't like grow up going to church other than to like weddings and funerals, or, you know, the things that you kind of walk in at a distance for. But I always had questions and always felt like there was something in my life that just was kind of calling to me from different places in like unavoidable ways. And honestly, I'm still putting my finger on different layers of it, but I'm really thankful for that anchor of belief and faith, and it's more spiritual than it is, you know, religion, I think, to me. But it's been a very cool walk with God through this whole life, and especially through this whole music ride. It's like there's just been so many moments of going, wow, it just really feels so very out of my hands in a lot of ways. Especially with the songwriting pieces, like When I Meet My Maker is very much a vessel sort of moment of writing that song. And then, and so is the Russell of Jersey. It's like, I have those questions. That's very personal and true. It's like, part of the foundation of me being able to believe is knowing that it's okay to ask those questions and to have those doubts and fears, and like to sit beside my idea of faith in the middle of those hardest parts.
Yeah. I love the innocence, especially at the top of the chorus on Jersey on the Wall, because I mean, it's asking, like, I feel like what a child, anything of like faith-based would be concerned. And I feel like I even asked those same questions as a kid, you know, how do you make a snowflake? You know, are you angry like when the earth shakes, or, you know, are you bowling when thunder? Yeah, that's not in the song. But you know, it's it seems so like innocent, but then like you really hit God like in the eardrum, I feel like, or just hit the listener that, you know, why do these things happen? And I feel like that's something that's so relatable. I don't think you have to even know a religion by any means, but I think it's these things of why do these bad things happen? And I think that's there's something so good about your songwriting that you can take something of a question where it could be easy to challenge something, you know, and make it so divisive. But there's this layer of glaze that makes it sweet on like as you're chewing it. And that's awesome. That's a crazy talent that I kind of wish I had, because me, if I wrote the song, it would be tough. That's a tough place for me, like for that sweet spot to cover it up, like a radio thing, you know? Yeah, but even like When I Meet My Maker, like it's crazy that it's almost like, I guess it would be like a prologue, like Jersey on the Wall, and then you come to When I Meet My Maker of like, oh yeah, when I really get there, this is the thing. It's going to be happy, it's going to be joyous, and then boom, I'm going to hit them with the same questions again.
Yep, I'm going to be right there with them. Yeah, it was very important in the sequencing of the record for me to have Jersey on the Wall come first.
Yeah, well, I mean, even I feel like, especially when you put together a record or even you start writing songs, some of the most interesting things to me, at least, are like the ones that you're not supposed to talk about at the dinner table, you know? Or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So, like, is it really a thing of like pointing out or like finding those things? Like maybe it's a little touchy, but then I know how to glaze it over.
That's very interesting to kind of hear it that way. For me, it's like, I don't know that I'm intentionally thinking about it that way, but I always have felt like music is a safe place to talk about hard things. I think it's like, you know, a song has a way of sort of pushing down the walls that we build around our, you know, our brain's way of like shutting down, and as a protection mechanism. And it's like all of a sudden you hear a song that kind of takes you there and it like sneaks you in the side trapdoor without you really even knowing.
No.
And then all of a sudden you're like processing a certain memory or experience you've been through, or just the harder things. And I think that that's one of the greatest gifts of music, is its ability to sort of be a companion into those places. And so for me, it's always like, it's like a mission to sort of be channeling those topics or things in songwriting, is to just not be afraid of digging into those conversations and places. And if anything, it's just more, in a lot of ways, just for me to help process how I feel about it. And it kind of helps me come around.
I understand that. Even songs like Lighthouse or something, you know, we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
you know, this record is coming out not at the most perfect time, probably.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's always nice to have a little spark, especially in a world where it's so, you know, it's very on the edge and defensive. And it's crazy. You probably didn't mean to write something like that for this point in time, but that's also the thing about like telling the truth too, or at least sharing your truth.
It's true. It wasn't exactly just sort of picturing when to put this record out, and the timing of it now. It's like the more and more I really think about it, the more it feels like exactly the time that it feels like it's supposed to be released. And I really just hope it can be a beacon of some hope or positivity for people to hold on to in this time. And you know, what a crazy time to just be alive and to be making art and music and turning to it in this time. I hope that it becomes a safe place for people right now.
You got a brother, and you probably know and understand this, not being a parent yourself, but all your songs are little kids, right? So which one's your favorite?
Oh, I mean, how can you? You're so right.
It's no. Everybody has a
little
favorite.
babies.
Everybody is lying with multiple kids, because I'm sure you can look back in your childhood. You and your brother are sitting at the counter table, and they're feeding you ice cream. Which one gets the most ice cream? That's the one Mom loves. You do the same thing in songs.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I mean, for me, I think it probably is Maker on this project, just because it was written thinking about my great grandmother, and it was definitely like just a personal sort of spiritual moment writing that song, and the take that we sat down to record it. You know, we were sitting around the altar of this church, and I walked in knowing we were starting with that song that day, and I wore my Mère Willette is what we all called her, and I wore her earrings and walked and sat down, and like Jay had moved everything as the recording space up to the altar of the church, and I sat down, and Jay was playing electric, and Jackson Hargrove was playing acoustic, and I was sitting there with my guitar, and we really just kind of ran the song. But I took a breath before we started to try it, and really just kind of felt something in that moment, and we finished the run through, and all just kind of looked at each other, and we're like, okay, so there we go. We just like left it entirely as that path. That's what you hear on the record. So for me, that moment felt really special, and I'm glad we got to include this song on this project.
Yeah, that's my favorite too. That would be my favorite kid.
Aw.
Yeah.
That would be your favorite kid. Thank you.
Yeah. 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 I don't know if that shows a glimpse of me, but I have lots of nephews and nieces, and I have one favorite niece. And that's about it. I have one. Like the rest of them, whatever. I can do without. But that one, she's golden.
Oh man,
she's the best.
She's got she's got like the cool uncle.
I know. And the sad thing is, I have a kid too. It just hit me. Wow. Okay.
Oh man.
Hey, you're awesome. I really hope this thing is the
awesome.
thing. I really hope it is the thing for you.
Thanks. I appreciate you saying that, and thanks for taking the time to talk about these songs in the past, and for lifting up the spirit of music the way you do. It's pretty awesome. And I'm glad to have gotten to talk to you today.
It was okay. I mean, don't hold this thing to a high esteem than what you just did. Bring it down just a little bit. Jokes aside, I enjoy getting to know Tenille Townes, even though I don't know how to take a compliment. I get all weird and nicky. I don't know how to deal with it, and it ends up being that thing. So that's where we are. But all this to say, I appreciated Tenille Townes' time, story, everything that she gave, and of course her music. The Lemonade Stand, it's out June 26th, so be sure to go stream and download it wherever you get your music. You can also visit her at TenilleTownes.com on her website. I'm sure you can get the music there. Of course, keep up with all updates from there. Also, from her socials at Tenille Townes. It was an enjoyable experience to get to know her. It's been awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. All I ever ask is that you just share it with a friend. There's something that we talked about that kind of resonated on you, tugged on the old heartstrings. Just share it out there on the old interwebs. Be sure to go to americansongwriter.com/podcast. Check out all their podcasts, since we just joined their little community and network of podcasts. Anything else? Give us a follow at Unofficial Brandon or at SMI Podcast. You want to get in touch with us for any reason, go to smipodcast.com, send us an email. Is that it? I think it is. All right, folks, take care of yourself. I'll see you next week with a brand new episode. Be nice, be kind. I know it's hard, but just try. Also, happy surviving out there.